Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
From time to time, I talk about the medical industry in America, the insurance industry, hospitals, all of those things. They have issues in America. You should know that if you live here. But I did a story not too long ago about a woman who saw a phantom charge appear on her bill at the hospital that said something to suggest that she'd been charged for getting emotional. And later on, it was clarified that no, she'd been charged because she was given some kind of emotional evaluation by a nurse or a doctor who basically asked her a series of questions about how she felt, and she was charged for that. And so, everyone who's ever been to a hospital and then seen the bills that result know that you could not guess all of the things that you're charged for when you go to the hospital. So if you went to the hospital, spent 2 days there and came home, and somebody said, we'll give you $1 million if you can simply get us a line item of the things you'll be charged for accurately. And if you can do that, we'll give you $1 million. No one could do it. Even people who work in hospitals couldn't do it. Because there's so many things you get charged for that what? They charge you for that? I'm not saying guess the prices. I'm saying guess the line items. So here's a crazy one. Woman waited in Atlanta ER for 7 hours and was not seen by a doctor. She was later charged $700. And she wasn't seen by anybody, okay? Not just a doctor, nobody. So she walked in, sat there for 7 hours, got up and walked out. Charged $700. So Gabriella Miranda wrote this for USA Today, and Gordon sent it to me. In July, the woman told Fox 5 Atlanta she went into Emory Decatur Hospital emergency because she had a head injury. She waited 7 hours and then got up and walked out. Weeks later, she was billed $700. Now, I can tell you that I know people who've walked into emergency rooms, got tired of waiting, and left. And I had a friend who went to a hospital in Oakland County and had a cut that wouldn't stop bleeding. It stopped bleeding while he was waiting, and he got up and walked out. He never got a bill for it. But that's back before hospitals had figured out they can bill for everything. Adamant that it was a mistake, she called the hospital and was told that she's charged a facility fee, or if you want to call it, emergency room visiting fee. $700 for visiting the emergency room. So I called them, and she said it's a hospital protocol, even if you're just walking in and you're not seen. When you type in your social security number, that's it. You're going to get charged regardless. That's what she said she was told. Now, Kaiser Health News reported this is often called provider-based billing, and it allows hospitals that own physician practices and outpatient clinics to bill separately for the facility as well as for physician services. In 2009, when this style of billing was granted, one billing consultant calculated the fees could provide an additional $30,000 annually per physician for hospitals. In an email from Emory Healthcare Patient Financial Services employee, she was told, you get charged before you are seen, not for being seen. Emory Healthcare takes all patient concerns seriously and appreciates this has been brought to our attention. Our teams are currently looking into this matter and will follow up directly with the individual, they said in an emailed statement to USA Today. So they said, look, you get billed because you walked into our building. The newspaper, they said, we're looking into it. Following the billing, the woman says she's now reluctant to go to the ER or a hospital and now considers it a last resort. Seeing that they're able to bill you for random things, it doesn't make me want to go, so that's not good, she told USA Today. In 2019, the nonprofit Healthcare Cost Institute found that the average emergency room visit cost $1,389, which was up over 175% from the previous decade. This number only includes the cost of entry for emergency care, not including charges for things like tests, IVs, drugs, or treatment. The COVID-19 pandemic has also caused an understaffing issue in hospitals, resulting in longer wait times and less rooms for patients. So let's get back to the idea that you are a consumer in this world and you spend your money and you buy things, either goods or services, from people who are selling them. I was going to use the word merchant, but people don't like to describe hospitals as merchants, even though hospitals sell stuff. And quite often in consumer protection settings, hospitals are excluded. So in Michigan, when we used to have a law called the Consumer Protection Act that would protect you from getting price gouged, it didn't apply to hospitals, didn't apply to doctors. The medical industry was exempted from it. And the thinking was, well, the medical industry is so heavily regulated that that'll take care of itself over there. You don't need to worry about high prices from hospitals. But let's just get back to the basic transaction. A woman walks into the emergency room and says, I need to be seen by a doctor. They glance at her and decide that she's not a high priority, and they tell her to have a seat. 7 hours later, she gets up and she walks out. What did she get for her $700? Because they say, we don't bill you for being seen, we bill you for walking into our facility. But that's obviously not true, because I have accompanied somebody to an emergency room. We both walked into emergency. I wasn't billed, they were. So you have to look at the transaction and ask yourself, if I'm being charged for something, what am I getting for the charge I'm paying? What am I getting? And I know that there's going to be a couple people out there who are in the medical industry who are going to look at this and go, Steve, you have to understand something. When she walks in and the nurse looks at her and evaluates that she could have a seat and wait, that actually it's not a diagnosis, because this nurse is not a doctor, so they can't do diagnoses. But the nurse is doing something. And the fact that you're interacting with and wasting the time of a nurse or whoever it is that's doing the admission, they have the right to charge for that. $700 for that? And so there is a problem here. It's either a gross overcharge, a ridiculous overcharge for the service being rendered, or it's simply being charged for no service being rendered at all. And that's what I think it actually is. The idea that you walk into a business and say, I would like some help, and they say, have a seat. Name another business where you can get charged for that. I go into a auto shop. My car's running funny. I pull my car onto the lot, walk into the waiting room, say my car's running funny. Have a seat. A few minutes later, they come by, give me your keys. I toss them the keys. They drive the car in. They work on it. Now, if I got up and walked out, can they bill me if I got up and walked out before I gave them the keys? They haven't done anything. Well, no, the guy did say have a seat, which is what the nurse told this woman, have a seat, $700. So I think most people will see the absurdity in this. We've talked before about how hospitals, for instance, recently have been ordered to list all their prices in places that people find them, including the internet. And there's a fine for not doing it. And many hospitals have realized it's just easier to pay the fine than to list the prices. Now, I'll admit, I don't believe most people would check what the ER cost is before going to the ER, if in fact it's an emergency. But the point is that those charges should be listed, but they should also make sense. And the idea that simply because you walked into the ER, they can charge you $700 is crazy. It's crazy. So I have a sneaky feeling that as this story gets more traction, you're going to hear somewhere down the road that they decided to reverse that charge for this woman. And the question then is, do they reverse it for other people? Because I understand most people who walk into an emergency room probably do get seen by doctors. And so that $700 charge for walking in the front door gets buried in with all the other charges, so most people don't know about it. But as a great example of something we can look at and study, woman walks in, sits there for 7 hours, gets up and walks out. And they charged her $700 for that, which is crazy. That's a ripoff. So Gordon sent it. Thanks a lot from USA Today. Gabriella Miranda wrote it. Woman waited in Atlanta ER for 7 hours and wasn't seen. She was later charged $700 for sitting there for 7 hours. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. They say every piece of chocolate eaten shortens your life by 2 minutes. I don't know, I've done the math and it seems that I died in 1676.